Welcome back, or welcome to Grateful and Full of Greatness. I'm your host, Mark Lassini. On this podcast, I sit down with guests who, in my opinion, live their lives with the pursuit of greatness in mind. This platform allows me to discuss and to explain strategies that go into reaching peak performance. This is episode number 27. My guest, Michelle Tumolo. Arguably one of the best lacrosse players in the world, Michelle has been on Team USA since 2011. She won a gold medal and was selected to the All-World team in the 2017 World Cup. Michelle is a Syracuse University grad, where she was a Tewaaraton finalist, an All-American, IWLCA, and Big East Attacker of the Year. Now, she will be playing for Athletes Unlimited in its inaugural season of lacrosse this July 2021. In parallel with her career as a pro athlete, Michelle has coached women's collegiate lacrosse since graduating in 2013 and is currently head coach at Wagner College. Off the field, she is a guiding light and inspiration to many, including me. I'm stoked to have her share her unique story and perspective. So without further ado, Michelle, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, Mark, that was really nice. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And right back at you. And I'm really pumped to get to know you more too on this as well.
So from the jump, I just want to put it out there that we are both multi-sport athletes from New Jersey who picked up a lacrosse stick in middle school. Could you talk about a little bit about Michelle Tumolo before lacrosse and who was the first person to put a stick in your hand?
Yeah. Oh, I love this because sports are so important to me. Like, it's not just lacrosse, and it's not always been just lacrosse for me. Like, soccer was my life. Basketball was my life. I played hockey with the guys. I played tackle football with all my guy friends growing up. Like, legit tackle football. They did not take it easy on me. And I love that about them. Roller hockey, slashing each other in the shins. Like, they did not take it easy on me. I think that's what made me so tough. But yeah, so I had not even known what lacrosse was until, I was about probably in my teens, and my dad had a coworker that was the backup goalie for the Wings, like when Gary was on the Wings. So I went to a game. I was like, this is so fun. And obviously watching the NLL is just so exciting, so fast. And I was like, this sport looks awesome. So fast forward a couple years, and my cousin had played for a local, college down at Rowan. And we were at her house one day, and she gave me a stick, and she was like, want to have a catch outside? And I was like, sure. I didn't know what I was doing, and as a natural athlete, you got to you want to catch the ball, right? Have some give. So I kind of had that from other sports, like playing baseball or softball or whatever. So I kind of had a natural instinct, but I was like, this sport is so new to me. So as soon as that happened, I went to a local camp that was part of my high school, and I fell in love ever since.
Well, I didn't know it would go that far in terms of common ground. I had my oldest cousin, or one of the oldest cousins, gave me a lacrosse stick in his backyard at a family party as well. We still have the picture. Yeah,
Cinnaminson, New Jersey. I'll never forget it. That's where it was for me.
There we go.
That's awesome.
Your reputation in the lacrosse community is just so great. And that's how, even though I don't know you very well, I feel like your energy on social media and within the community is just so contagious. Where would you say you get that energy, that confidence, that positive voice? Does it come from somebody specific, and have you always had it?
I appreciate that too. I'm one of 5 kids in my family. I'm the middle child. I was, I had always played sports. We all played sports, but, we all are just this fun loving, silly group of people in my family. So think about it. That's a crowd of already 7 people, your parents and all of my 4 other siblings. So I'm just well, that's 6 people, but 7 total. We just if you think about growing up in a household like that, and you're all trying to get the table to listen to you and laugh at you, and we all were so positive and fun. I think that was natural in growing up. And then I just had so many great friends growing up. We had so much fun, and we didn't take life too serious. And then obviously once sports got involved, then I had to really be serious. But I always thought who I am growing up, I want to be that as an athlete, but I also want to take it as serious as possible. But I never wanted to change who I am in the core. So I would say my family just gave me that instant confidence, that instant fun loving feeling with being a young kid growing up in a kind of a big family. So I give all the credit to them. The best.
Yeah, I love that. And, it's crazy as I was preparing to have you on this podcast. I would listen to and love your podcast with Paul Kark, who I really don't know too well, but he seems like a great guy as well for our sport. But on it, you described yourself as intense on the field and lighthearted off of it. And you kind of just said that right there. And I think that's like so important, that ability to flip the switch, just like omnipotent among all the great players. Where do you feel like you learned how to flip it on? Was there an influence that like, okay, this is Michelle when she's intense and this is how you do it? Where did that come from?
It actually brings me back to like being young and playing football and like basketball in my front yard. Like you're not just playing you're playing to have fun, but like you're like, no, like you talk some crap, you talk some smack, you got to be able to play with the boys too. So like I was like, I don't want you guys to care that I'm a girl, like take me serious. And I think that started from such a young age that it was instilled in me that like, who cares if I'm playing with boys, girls, whatever. Like I want them to know I'm for real, and I want them to know that like this is important to me to be like the best athlete, but also like let's laugh about it after, and let's go like do other stuff off the field. So I think it, again, going back to my roots and going back to like my guy friends who would tackle me and just play football and like and they like were impressed. They weren't like being like, oh, you're a girl. Like they were actually impressed with my athletic ability. So, those recesses where they pick the teams, those two, I wasn't picked last, so that's good. But yeah, I would say it comes from that young, athlete in me where I had to play with the boys and I wanted them to take me serious.
I love that. And when I teach the mental game, one of the first things I say in any session is like, we're going to forget about talent. We're going to forget about natural ability. And we're just going to focus on life being a strategy game. I had Andy Towers, my coach in the PLL, mammoth of a specimen now, but apparently when I heard his story, he was very undersized growing up. So coming back to life as a strategy game, he had to find a way. When he was a smaller athlete, he had to find a way. And really what got him to the next level was his energy. He cared more and put out that full effort. And it seems like the same kind of story for you, where you kind of just finding a way to not only be picked, but once you're on the field, you find a way to score and win and etc. And in your first three answers, and I guess every single person starts off this way, and I think you and I would agree that probably the best part about lacrosse and sport is the relationships and then like the highs and lows of like what it teaches us. So one of the things I would love to do with you right now is hero, highlight, and hardship. So inside of the game that's so special to us, whether it's in the game of lacrosse or in life, do you have a hero that you've always looked up to emulate? Is there a highlight, one or two, that you really point and like was a huge inflection point? And then lastly, I don't want to be too depressive, but is there a hardship that really changed things for you?
Yeah. When I think about my hero, there's two people that come in mind. And, when I was younger, and I keep going back to this just because when you're young, you have so much influence and people you look up to. And, my high school coach is like, I give all my credit to her. She was the one where I stepped on the field and was like, you're going to be like amazing. Like you are literally going to be. And I was like, what, really? Like, and you don't believe it in yourself until like you really hear it. And, you have these goals for yourself, but you really like when someone else says it to you, it means more. And then like my parents are so amazing. Like growing up with 4 other siblings, like they still treated us all the same, but like they didn't shut down any of my dreams, even though it may have been hard financially or hard with timing, with getting me to practice or this and that. And like, they believed in me too. And it was never a time where they ever in my life where they ever like, you need to do better or you need to do this, like not once. And it was always like, good game, always positive. And I'm so thankful for that because I do see the other side and how it can tear someone down. So they're my heroes. I now have more heroes as I've played like a Gary Gate, but like from very young, that's who's like influenced my drive and my passion and my confidence in myself as a player, but also that like take to the next level and be yourself. So yeah. Then what was the next one? Highlight. Okay.
I love that part, by the way.
Yeah. Highlight. I gotta go with 2 again. Gosh, sorry.
It's okay. I love it.
I always do this.
If you want to do a third, that's cool too.
Yeah. So 2012 was like, every year at Syracuse was amazing, but 2012, there was just something different about this team and, the coaching staff and just everything about it. There was no doubt in our minds, like if we were losing or whatever, like this team had such a bond and such a belief in every person on the field, no matter if it was someone that never played a minute or someone that played every minute. And we did the work off the field to make sure that happened. So, that season, there's so many games that come up, but we were down a few goals in a game. I think it was regular season against Florida. We come back, win in overtime. We're down 3 goals or 2 goals at UNC in a quarterfinal game. 2 minutes left, come back, win it. We're down semifinals. This is the game that highlights in my brain. I think a lot of people remember this, but we're down 7 goals with 12 minutes left. 7 goals. And like lacrosse can kind of go like swing. You can score 7 goals, but 7 goals, 12 minutes left. Every single person on the field knew that we were going to win in a Syracuse uniform. Like, no doubt. Even in the locker room, like, we're like, shoot, we got peppered. Like, they were putting in goals. And we're like, doesn't matter. Like, we're going to win. So just knowing and, being part of a team, looking to your left and right, it is so important to know, like, everyone believes in you and the next person. That game, we came back, won in double overtime, go to the national championship for the first time ever for Syracuse women's lacrosse. We lose, but again, it still felt like we won because we were talented, right? But we won because of what was in here and in here.
Sure.
And I've carried that throughout my whole entire career after, And then my other highlight has to be my, my gold medal winning with my team in 2017 in England. And, as an individual, that is the highest, achievement as a lacrosse player, getting that gold and being a part of the USA. But as a team, it's unbelievable to be a part of a team that's that talented and continue to dominate. So it was awesome.
For sure. Now we could skip out over the hardship because your answer was too good, unless you want to answer it.
No, we can do it because that's also what made become who I was at that 2017. So hardship, it was 2013, my senior season. Kayla Trainer's on my team. I have Alyssa Murray. Like, our team is stacked. We're in our 13th game. And actually, this is before. So I forget it was January. So going in January, it was my last USA training before the cuts for World Cup. And after the weekend where I felt I did really well, but it's they have to make a decision, right? It's not easy. I felt like I did really well, but I got the call that I'd been cut from the World Cup team. And obviously that's a dagger, right? Being cut from anything is a dagger.
Sure.
Obviously that put the fuel in the tank.
Sure.
Go out and just ball. And that was already what I was hoping to do in that senior season. But 13th game in, I tear my ACL. So I was like, oh my gosh, I've never been hurt my entire life. So going down, obviously, you see the game from a different perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
As soon as that happens, it's taken away from you, and especially your senior season where you can't redshirt. I'm thankful because mentally and physically it was the hardest thing ever, but I had amazing people and teammates and coaches and athletic, training staff at Syracuse, and then my family. Just they didn't let me be negative. They're like, you're still able to play after this. Once you get back, it's still like you can do this. So fast forward, and I'm like, I need to make this next World Cup. Like it is, I need to. So I did everything in my power to make sure that I was the best I had ever, felt and played. So that happened. I'm thankful for that.
It's so awesome, and I think, I probably say this almost once a podcast, but a breakdown leads to breakthroughs, and a setback is a setup for a comeback. I really believe that. And just going through your answers there, one of my favorite coaches of all time, Jim Valvano, said, "My father did the most important thing he could. He believed in me." And it's just really inspiring to hear how good of a team you've had. I picked up the stick in 5th grade, and I had the same scenario where a coach was just like, "You're great. I believe in you. You're going to be something special." And you're just like, as a young kid, you're like, "Okay, let's go." You're really inspired by that. One of the fathers of applied sports psychology, or psychology in general, his name is Dr. Rob Niederfer. If you go to his website, he has this street sign, how it crosses at an X, but there's actually a third street sign. And he says it's on them, it says confidence, trust, and faith. And what he's saying is, like, all three are the same. And that's really the aura I got from your highlight answer about your Syracuse 2012 team is, that's what every single coach in the world is searching for. When I sit down to speak to a coaching staff, what do they want? One thing: to win, right? And you break up the word win into an acronym, and it's what's important now. And even you down 7 goals with 12 minutes left, you guys are like, okay, what's next, right? What's next? And I think that's really, really huge. And then the last thing I'll say is, like, the huge problem that you had. It's always hard for me to, even as personally or working with clients, I always say to them, when a problem arises, you have one of two F's. You can become fascinated or frustrated by it. And just like you said, you put the fuel in the tank. Now, Michelle, you're an all-world player, right? And I want to ask you something in terms of, like, when you go to the field or in any team, what kind of strengths are you banking on? And what part of your game have always been something that you've searched to improve? And has that changed over time?
Yeah. I think my strengths are that, like, I always want to be a team player. Like, I always want to be a giver. Like, and you can kind of see it in, like, the way I play. I'm trying to make a play. I'm not trying to trying to put the ball in the back of the net, but I love to give. I love to make a play that makes like a hockey assist or whatever. But like, that is so much like more exciting to me. And giving my teammate the rock to then put in the back of the net, like, that is something. And then, like, in a team, like, conversational standpoint, like, I want to give to my teammates to be like, hey, you're the best, you can do this, like, you're the best, you can do this. And I think that I learned that because of the coaches I had and the teammates I had, that, like, when they did that to me, it felt the best, and I felt like I was unstoppable. So I always wanted to reciprocate that. And and then I think what I wish, or something I have worked on is also that, like, and a lot of people don't know about me, but I've talked about it. Like, I'm like a nervous wreck. Like, I get like really nervous, actually. Like, it's because of, like, I put this pressure and I want to be this way. And, I do the work to prepare, but it's like a mental thing I've had since I was young, like, real nervous, like, can't eat, like, like that. Yeah, like, weird. And my teammates like, I was like, I know I need to eat. Like, that's why I'm getting cramps. Like, it was, but like, it's just this like mental block that I've had to work on for so long. And I think it's because I wanted to be great for my teammates. I wanted to be great for my coaches. I never wanted to let them down. And I think that I mask it well. You wouldn't really know it. But I feel like as soon as the whistle starts, it's like, goes away. It's like, let the talent and let the hard work and the mindset, like, do the work. So yeah, I would say, like, that is something I've tried to work on in my entire life, like, with everything.
It's pretty unique to hear, like, as some of the world's best, just you, but outside of you as well. It's like, that's like pretty, everybody holds themselves to a high standard. Don't have higher expectations from anyone else than you do of yourself. I loved what you said about you being a giver. The more you give, the more you live, even on the field, off the field, it doesn't really matter. And this answer right here was what I've been feeling as a follower of you on social media, and knowing you through Weak Links, is like, there's this word called Shakti Pod, and it means exchange of energy. And the story I love to tell is Kevin Garnett, when he was on the Boston Celtics and they won a championship, they did an article on him that he was the most touched player, and he won the most valuable player and all this stuff, but like by hundreds. He's going around, he's saying you're the best, touching them up and all this different stuff. And that's what I feel in your answer, and I really look to do the same. And I think it makes you a better player yourself when you get external and you're helping others, because then you're not having that area of improvement that you're working on. And I hope that you're getting to a point where confidence comes from competence, and you're very competent at the sport. I hope that it's minimizing over time. One of the things that I definitely want to touch upon is, not many in our sport, Michelle, and this, like, dedicate themselves fully to lacrosse for financial but very, very different reasons.
Yeah.
However, you do, as a coach and a player, STX sponsored athlete, all of that, you're a great ambassador for the game. So I feel like, from an outsider, your world is all lacrosse. Is that true? What percentage of your life, or how much time do you spend throughout the days and weeks inside the world of lacrosse? Or are there any other things that you really make time for, to, like, have a hobby or outlet outside of the sport?
Yeah, it's basically my life. Now, I think talking about my experience at Syracuse now makes more sense of why like I chose this as a career path. Yes, I did have these accolades, but accolades don't mean anything. It's like really the people that you meet and the experiences you had. And Gary Gait, one of the greatest of all times, but he's also not just the best player, he's the best person. And he's teaching women from 18 to 23-year-olds that like want to buy into him and everything he says. I would literally, he could say like jump 300 feet and I would try, but like that's because of everything he had given me as a person, and that I could call him right now and be like, Gary, and I need this, and he would do it. And it's something that like had changed my life forever. And I had that in high school too, so I wanted to give that to players. I want them to come to practice every day and feel that I'm not just here to play lacrosse and be the best I want to be, but I want to be the best person. I want to be the best teammate. I want to be a better leader. I want to be a better person in the community. Like that's something to me that I had, and I want to help create that with young women. So once I chose this as a career path, I've been at a few schools, but I've learned things at every single school. I've created such great relationships and friendships, and now being a head coach, it's a lot of pressure, but it's really cool because I get to make it what I want to make it, and I get to form this family and just influence these girls' lives from top down. But so yeah, I just think that just that coaching aspect is so important. And going home every day, I might be doing my emails at 10 p.m. still, or watching film, and it's because I always want to get better and I always want to be prepared and prepare my team as much as possible. But I definitely also am like, I want to have other things that are important to me and do those. Have my time with my fiance, and she's working hard too. She works nights, over shift, 13-hour shifts. So like when we get those times together, we really make sure we do it. So that's something that's super important to me, and seeing my family and whatnot. But seeing your shirt is also something I wanted to start, and that's kind of when this whole pandemic happened. Lacrosse, like it takes over your life. You're either practicing, coaching, or whatever. I got to have this space in my like life that I never had before, to be able to like come together and really think about what I wanted to do for the LGBTQ plus community and beyond, and like kind of create that brand. So I got to do that, and that was like a hobby of mine I had on my list forever. So I'm really thankful that I had that time, as tough as anything to be away from my team.
Yeah, and just so listeners know, I am wearing my MT35 shirt right now. And in your answer, you talk about influence, you talk about leadership, you talk about you're very other centric. And like I've mentioned multiple times in this podcast, I barely even know you, but I feel like I do. And as an outside admirer from afar, the word authentic comes to mind. When I think of Michelle Tumolo, right? And what I would love for you to do is share some of your journey toward coming out, being open, being a proud member of the LGBTQ plus community. I believe your story and the strength from it will give strength to others as well.
Yeah, and that's what my goal was to be. I had always been myself when we started this podcast, talking about like who I was growing up. Like I've always been like, this is who you get. And I always talk about how like feelings that I went through. And yeah, like I've had nervous times in my life. I am a nervous person, but I'm also this fun loving energy. So it's like, I've always been giving to people of like who I am. And I never realized like how important it was to like kind of talk about that next level of who I am. And Paul brought that out in me and being like, hey, you should talk about this more. And I was like, you're right. Like I didn't realize I had always been out, and I've always been very vocal about it, but in a way of like, let's really break it down. Let's talk about my experiences. Let's talk about like where it all comes from. And I came out young. Like realistically, like not a lot of people come out this young, and it was in high school, and I kind of knew that it was kind of like a part of me when I was like a freshman, sophomore, but I really didn't like speak about it until junior, senior. And still that's really young for people. But I think with how open I was with my family and my friends as a person to begin with, that it felt so weird for me to like hide something or like, but I think it was just me realizing, oh, this is me. It is scary, but I'm also very okay with it. And especially that young, you're scared of like high school drama and bullies and all that stuff.
Of course.
Which is so real, and it still happens, and it's so sad. So the experience I had, like, I didn't have bullies. Like, yeah, people would say things here and there, but it really didn't bother me because I think they weren't really trying to hurt me. And really looking back, I think kids like that really get upset, or so I like talking about it.
Sure.
So yeah, I came out to my family. They're super accepting. All my siblings were. My dad didn't blink an eye. I think my mom was more worried about the life I would live, like, because she hadn't really known of gay people. So she was worried about, like, oh, is she going to get bullied? Is she going to get not being able to get married? Like, that's something, like, the older generation, like, they don't get. And it took her a little bit, but, like, it wasn't a lack of support. It wasn't a lack of love ever. And we talked about this recently. She's like, you give me too much credit. Like, I do want people to know, like, and I'm like, you're right. I need to talk about that, because it wasn't a lack of love or support. It was just a lack of knowledge. So, and I think parents still don't get it. And there's kids that reach out to me, Mark, a lot of kids that will DM me and say, like, how do I do this? Like, my parents won't accept me, or how do I talk to them about it? And that's why I wanted to come out. That's why, because maybe their parent might follow me and they might see it's okay. It's
Sure.
a lot of people feel this way, and it's who they are. So I felt that when I talked about it, it helped a lot of people. And even if they reached out, I tried my best to give them my advice, and it touched way more people than I ever would have thought. And even just you wearing that, like, as an ally, that is so important. And, like, a parent might go buy that shirt and wear it, and their kid might see and be like, oh, they would be okay with me. So that was kind of the vision. And it's done some cool things. I'm really proud of it. So.
Yeah, and it is awesome. The small little quote that comes to mind is, everybody has a song inside them. It might be a little song, but there's people out there that want to hear it. And I love that, because, you don't know who wants to hear your story. You
Right.
probably didn't even know that I was a follower of you.
I didn't.
Over a year, right? So, staying on this, in terms of the platform that you have, and maybe we can turn it to you, as a coach of young women at Wagner, but what are some recurring messages that you find yourself repeating throughout a practice, throughout a week, throughout a season, where, Michelle's saying that again, Michelle's saying that again. And it is important. Like, when I talk about, culture development or leadership, you don't want, as a coach, to say something different in a pressure situation that you haven't been saying all along the way. And if you can say something that you've been saying all along, that gives comfort and instills confidence. Okay, we're still, even though it's like a pressurized situation and there's 30 seconds on the clock and it's a tie game, that's the same message. So what is one of those, or a few? I know you love to be the 2 or 3. So what are some messages that you kind of repeat over time?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I like that you're getting deep with this, because it's, like, so important for people to hear that from a player and coach perspective. Because, again, I always go back to, like, what I had learned and what I have heard from coaches, and I always and culture wins games, right? Like, and that's what I had at Syracuse. The culture was just, like, unstoppable. Nothing could break it. So something that I always talk about with my girls, and I say practice in a meeting or whatever, it's remember why you're here, and you're supposed to be here, but, like, giving your all, no matter if you have a bad day, the best day, give your all. You have 2 hours of practice plus hours. It doesn't matter. It could be 1 hour. It could be 3. Like, be there, be present, give your all. And I promise you, it'll be worth it, because that person next to you is going to give her all, and the next person's going to give your all. And that is a culture and a creation that, like, no matter if it's the crappiest practice, your passion and your heart and your desire to be there means so much more. And I always, say, I don't want to coach energy. Like, I think a lot of coaches say that, like, I don't want to have to be like, yo, your energy's got to be up, because mine's way up here always. Like, so they get that. I'll coach you on how to catch a ball that comes right at your face. Right. But I don't want to have to remind you to be like, let's go. But I also realize that people have worse days and they have off days, and they need that confidence. Each kid might need a different type of, love, but I coach every single one of my players the same, because I want them to know, no matter if you're a starter for 4 years, if you haven't touched the field, like, I love you, I believe in you. And if you're giving your all, I'm going to give you my all. So that.
Awesome. You know, the number one thing, number one decision you'll make in anything is, are you going to go all out or are you going to hold back? I was just talking to my mentor last night and he gave this seminar, and it was called The Three Most Important Words in Applied Sports Psychology. And he said there's actually two. One is go all out, and the other one is act as if. And you know, if you looked in the dictionary about confidence, it would say, you know, this feeling or a belief. And as you get more into sports psychology, you realize that confidence is an action. You know, you're not going to become confident by waiting for a feeling to arrive, like the wind, right? So it's just something that you have to act into. And you even talked about that in your story, you know, like a jubilant family, and like you were talking and at the dinner table and trying to get your story in, you know, you gain confidence from getting your story in, from getting your word out there, from getting your action out there. So one of the things, and this is probably the most important question that I can ask you, you know, as a veteran in the game, and now you're deeper into your career as both a player and a coach, what is something you know now that you wish you knew as like a college athlete or as a first year coach?
Again, great question. I would say I want to really get this. I would say never take this is going to sound so cliche, but like seriously, like do not take any day for granted, like a practice, a game. And obviously this pandemic is a big reason for that. Because I was in a locker room with my players, you know, coaching them their last game last year, knowing that it could be the last one. And that's actually the words I said, like, do not take this game for granted. You don't know if you're going to play again. And I think about that with my injury and being cut, and not that I took it for granted, but having that mindset every single day of like, you never know when it could be taken from you. So as a coach, I like, even if I'm feeling like crap or whatever, not that, you know, whatever, I'm like, I will not take this one practice or this 1 second with my team. You know, I'm going to go in and watch film with them at 11:45. I'm not even taking the seconds of breathing for granted with my team, because it's a second to learn. It's a second to help. It's a second to just grow as a human, as a coach, as a mentor, with people that also make you feel unstoppable. So I know it sounds like poetry, but like, I'm just like, it's a feeling. And I'm really thankful for the experiences I have had in my life. But I'm definitely just like, do not take any which day for granted.
Yeah, I mean, two questions ago, you gave me an answer that you always want the recurring message, or you always want to go all out. And inside that, you said, you know, be present, you know, and optimal performance is an expression of being in the present moment. You know, monks devote their whole life to trying to get to the present moment. So you say the words cliche, but I'm all with you, you know, because it's timeless. You know, it's much easier to say, you know, get to your breath, you know, get to the present moment. Monks devote their whole life to trying to do that, right? There's as athletes, you know, if you want to get into the zone, you have to be present, but that's what you have to do. How do you do it? And it has a lot to getting to your breath. Like we talked about earlier, get external and be there for your teams. Let's say Michelle's not feeling it. Okay. Are there any movies, quotes, books, resources you turn to for inspiration or motivation? Maybe it's a mentor you reach out to for some guidance on how to jack somebody up. But when you're down and you're looking for the spark, where do you really turn to or go back to a lot?
So I have a lot of close people that I talk to a lot, and you know, there's always great things with music, just being able to like kind of change your mood. But someone that I talk to on the daily and on the reg, that someone I is a huge mentor for me, is Katrina Dowd. And I give a lot of credit to her of like my lacrosse mind, and how I kind of like I see things. And she was my very good friend and coach. She was my coach at part of that 2012 team. And it makes sense why, you know, I am who I am and where I've come from, and because she was one of my coaches on that staff. And
oh wow,
you know, I really turned to her for either advice on something or lacrosse knowledge, or She gasses me up better than anyone. So even if I need, confidence or just someone to talk to, and she's one of my best friends, but also just like such a mentor to me. And I think the reason I went to Oregon is because she was the head coach. She was going to be my boss, and I wanted to learn from her as a mentor, as a head coach in that realm. And that's kind of where I did find the passion to be a head coach, and saw the greatness she's kind of given this game and given me. Sadly, she's in Germany now and not coaching collegiately. But she's still giving like me from across the pond, that confidence, that reminder of why we do it and how important it is, and to be a good coach and be a good person. And so yeah, that is someone I turn to like daily. I was texting with her this morning.
I mean, the reason why I asked you that is because it's like, it's so hard to be consistently energized. It's not easy. And I although you're all world, I want like listeners to see like you're human, and you have to find, it's such a blessing to have those type of Katrina Dowds in your life, right? Because if you don't have them, then what do you turn to when the going gets dark? And I've been enthralled with listening to your story and the different chapters. So this next question is probably a little bit difficult. You might have to take some time, but this next chapter, 2021, what would you title it? What are some of the things that you're looking forward to most? These little next goals, both as a player, but as a coach of Wagner.
Great question. And I'm also sorry, I wanted to add something to the end of that last one.
Please do.
I want to give credit, obviously, to like my fiance Laura. Like, she is a rock. She is someone that grounds me. She is someone that is so level-headed and so sees all sides. She was an athlete, but also as a caregiver right now. She's a PA in a burn unit in New York City, and like has worked on the front lines of this pandemic. So having her as like my rock and being able to like talk me through things in life is so important. So I just wanted to give her a shout out as well.
100%.
Okay. What is the next chapter? What is it titled? Was that the question? Sorry.
Yeah, it's tough. And if you don't have like the direct words for it, I kind of just wanted to see what your main goals or focus and priorities heading into this next chapter.
Yeah. I would say like, in a way, the playing situation is like one last ride, could be like the title for like USA. Realistically, I probably have one more year in me. I can't do another 4. I'll be 34 by then, which is not saying it's not doable. I do want to have some babies, so we'll see about that. So playing wise for the US team, for sure, it's I'm going to give my last everything I got to the red, white, and blue for this next year. For the pro side of things, that's like a year by year thing. And I would be so greatly thankful to continue to play until I my body falls apart. And I think you feel the same way, right? You do it all until you can't. And then lacrosse, like coaching, it's funny because I feel like I'm just getting started. So I could say that, like, yeah, I've been here for a bit, but I feel like I'm just getting started, and these goals and these dreams I have for this team. And I can't wait to continue to work together to achieve those.
I love that. And it's pretty evident how you're using your story as a lacrosse player to even be a better coach. One of the things that I just wanted to probe inside, because not everybody can have your personality and your energy, but they can have like the same pillars and foundations in terms of your performance. So I would just ask you if there's a young girl or boy listening to this, young student athlete, what kind of pillars should they listen to, or foundation from a performance standpoint, skill development standpoint? What would you encourage them to do? So what's some advice you would give them?
Yeah, like I always say this, like, try as hard as you can, or do the most you can in that day or that moment when no one's looking. It doesn't matter who's watching, right? The time that you spend on the field, in your backyard, on a wall, when no one's looking, is the time that's going to prepare you to be great and be amazing. Like listen to yourself and your passions and your drive and your whatever makes you happy, do it. Because you know yourself better than anything. Like, don't take life too serious, but also, like, promise you, if you're putting in the work, that extra work, you're going to go, you're going to achieve those dreams. Just going back to a little story, you and I, we had to kind of get good fast if we wanted to get into our, our dreams. So I was in my backyard, my net had holes in it. I had to chase the balls. I'm watching collegiate games and going in my backyard and trying to mimic those players. And no one was watching me. I don't even know if my parents could see me through the back windows, but I knew in my head I was doing my own highlight reel, right? Working on that highlight reel, because when I went to practice, it was like butter. It was something, because I had been working on it so much. So whoever's listening, right? Work when no one's looking. Work harder when your teammates and coaches are even, are watching, because then they see all the stuff that you've been working on,
Yeah, I something I continue to say these days, and I just put it up again yesterday, is that a wave doesn't crash where it starts. That kind of time investment that you're talking about. There's a listener right now who's very young, who's far out, but they're coming, right? And I think that time on the wall and just kind of making it priority is huge. Michelle, I would love to do one speed round and then one last question with you.
Okay.
A speed round, if that's okay. I'll say a line or a question, and you answer as quickly as you can. Okay.
Oh man. All right.
Your favorite athlete growing up?
Allen Iverson.
It all comes down to
this moment.
In a world where you can be anything, be
I just had like 5 words. Okay.
Say all 5. That's good.
I was going to say like open-minded, passionate, empathetic, caring, loving.
Awesome. Fun loving one. What's your favorite movie, book, or TV show?
Schitt's Creek.
Awesome.
I had to go with funny, I was like, I could have went with like, passion, really.
You did give us a lot of emotion, so I'm glad you.
Schitt's Creek. There we go. That's the funny in me, right? Like,
there you go. And this one's tough. But this is what I ask everybody. You've showed a lot of gratitude, and that's what this is all about on this podcast. But to me, to Michelle, greatness is defined by or looks like.
Say it one more time.
To me, greatness is defined by or looks like.
Passion that you have in your heart.
I absolutely love it. Your story is inspiring. You're awesome. I really enjoyed this conversation. Where could our listeners reach out to you or follow you?
M Tumolo 35. Last name is Tumolo on Insta and Twitter. I'm not a big tweeter, but Instagram, I'm super interactive, and I think you'll find out who I am real quick when you look at my pictures and see my really cute dog. But Mark, I'm really so appreciative of you having me on your platform. You're doing amazing things. You're awesome, and you have a huge fan of me, and I can't wait to watch you crush it this season in PLL.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.